Most men believe seduction is about charm, humor, or physical appeal. They are tragically wrong. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of strategy and human manipulation, understood desire as a battlefield of perception, tension, and control. True seduction is subtle, invisible, and ruthless, but it works. It is about mastering the silent mechanics of attraction, exploiting emotional blind spots, and creating a psychological pull so strong she cannot resist it. This is the dirtiest method, not because it is crude, but because it operates beneath the surface where no one sees it, and yet it commands obsession. 1. Absence creates desire. The invisible pull. Machiavelli understood the invisible levers of human psychology better than most. He knew that value is rarely measured by presence. It is measured by scarcity. In the arena of seduction, being constantly available is a silent killer of attraction. The mind quickly habituates. What is always present is taken for granted. Desire is not born from mere attention. It is born from tension, from the craving that arises in the vacuum of absence. When you are absent, unpredictably appearing on your own terms, you create a subtle psychological hunger. She begins to notice what she once ignored, thinking of you not as a constant fixture, but as a rare and compelling force that occupies her thoughts whether she wants it or not. This is the invisible pull, the tension you orchestrate in silence, the void that exists only because you chose to step away. To implement this, Machiavellian strategy demands precision. Respond to her messages selectively. Do not allow the rhythm of your availability to become predictable. Create intentional gaps between interactions, forcing her mind to fill the empty space with curiosity and anticipation. Schedule absences strategically, even when she expects attention. Leave social events early, change plans at the last moment in ways that seem natural but subtly highlight your autonomy, and guard your weekends as territories she cannot claim. Each absence is a quiet signal of independence and self-worth. The effect is profound. Desire shifts from passive to active. She does not simply wait for your attention, she begins to seek it. Her thoughts orbit around your presence and absence alike, each unpredictably timed appearance igniting mental and emotional engagement. In this way, you do not need to persuade or impress. The tension itself becomes the mechanism of attraction. In the hands of a man who understands Machiavellian subtlety, absence is not a void. It is a lever that moves desire with invisible force. 2. Emotional hijacking. Through contradiction, Machiavelli's insight into human nature revealed a paradox. People seek stability, yet they are irresistibly drawn to the unpredictable. Desire is not born from consistency, it is born from intrigue, from the subtle tension created when a man refuses to be fully understood. A man who oscillates between warmth and distance, attention and withdrawal, fascination and challenge, plants a psychological seed in her mind. She begins to analyze your every word, gesture, and glance, compelled by an invisible puzzle that only you can control. This is not manipulation in its crude form, it is orchestration. By introducing controlled contradiction, you create a mental chase that she can't ignore. Practical application requires precision. Compliment her intellect one day, praising the sharpness of her mind, then the next. Challenge her perspective with subtle disagreement, forcing her to rethink what she assumed she knew. Engage intensely in her stories and ideas, showing that your attention is valuable and not guaranteed, and then withdraw just enough to make her feel that connection must be earned, never demanded. Allow conversations to fluctuate naturally between engagement and detachment, intensity and calm, so that each interaction carries a charge she cannot predict. The psychological effect is profound. Her mind becomes obsessed with closure, a puzzle that never fully resolves unless you permit it. Desire transforms into a compulsive mental game, addictive in its subtlety, as she invests emotions far beyond rational limits. She begins to chase not just your attention, but the understanding of you, an understanding that exists only on your terms. In this arena of contradiction, the invisible hand of Machiavellian strategy converts unpredictability into power, turning mere interactions into a psychological lever that heightens fascination, deepens attachment, and anchors desire in ways that consistency alone could never achieve. 3. The shadow of mystery. Machiavelli understood that power rarely comes from what is shown. It comes from what is hidden. Mystery is the seducer's silent weapon, a force that operates not through words but through absence, ambiguity, and the subtle withholding of information. A man fully known is a man fully understood, and a man fully understood is a man powerless. Desire, by contrast, thrives in uncertainty. When she cannot predict your thoughts, your actions, or your next move, her mind becomes a theatre of speculation, endlessly weaving scenarios and imagining possibilities. Each unexplained action, each partial revelation deepens her fascination, making your presence more magnetic simply because it is not fully grasped. To cultivate this shadow, the Machiavellian approach demands precision. Share your personal stories selectively, offering glimpses of who you are without ever exposing the full picture. Reveal skills, unusual knowledge, or rare hobbies, but never the complete spectrum. Let her see mastery, but not the method. Glimpses of depth, but not the full architecture. Appear intermittently unavailable, allowing moments of silence to speak louder than your words. A woman may discover that you are an accomplished painter, yet she remains unaware of your full style, your influences, or the subtle philosophy that guides your work. That gap, the unseen, the unspoken, becomes the engine of curiosity, and curiosity is the true driver of desire. In this strategy, mystery is not deception, it is control. By withholding just enough, you force her mind to fill in the blanks, creating mental engagement that is beyond your direct effort. She becomes invested in uncovering you, chasing knowledge that is deliberately out of reach. The shadow of mystery transforms interactions into psychological leverage, turning intrigue into magnetism, and making her desire not merely for your presence, but for the understanding of the man she can never fully possess. 4. Exploit emotional gaps. Machiavelli's mastery of human nature lies in his understanding that desire is rarely straightforward. It thrives in the contradictions and tensions within the human psyche. Every woman carries emotional gaps, contradictions between what she wants and what she allows herself to feel. Some yearn for thrill yet recoil from vulnerability. Others crave attention yet guard their independence fiercely. The man who can identify and inhabit these spaces occupies a position of subtle power. By positioning yourself as both the excitement and the security she cannot find elsewhere, you insert yourself into the unspoken conflicts of her mind, becoming indispensable not through obligation, but through psychological alignment. To execute this effectively, careful observation is required. Notice the subtle cues in her words, her tone, and her behavior. These micro-indicators reveal the emotional gaps she may not consciously acknowledge. Once identified, you can guide her experience, offering precisely what she unconsciously desires, sometimes a challenge, sometimes reassurance, without ever seeming manipulative. Offer thrills sparingly, creating a tension that draws her in, then retreat to give space for reflection. She begins to associate courage, excitement, and emotional fulfillment with your presence, building an attachment that is as psychological as it is emotional. For example, a woman may enjoy adventurous experiences but hesitate to act, held back by caution or self-doubt. By casually suggesting a daring yet attainable adventure, you position yourself as a bridge between her desire and her hesitation. The experience, shared through your influence, subtly rewires her emotional associations. Excitement becomes linked to your presence, courage to your guidance, and desire to the magnetic tension you create. In this way, Machiavellian strategy transforms your interactions into a psychological architecture of influence, where attraction is no longer random or fleeting. It is deliberately cultivated in the gaps where her emotions are most vulnerable and most compelling. 5. Trigger the ego, then withhold. Machiavelli understood that the human ego is one of the most powerful levers of influence. Desire is not born from constant affirmation. It is ignited when praise is meaningful, scarce, and earned. By making her feel admired, desired, and uniquely seen, but only intermittently, you create a psychological rhythm that she cannot ignore. Each compliment becomes a peak, a reward that she subconsciously craves, while your absence immediately afterward amplifies its impact. The combination of validation and withdrawal transforms attraction into a force that she begins to chase instinctively, like an addiction that her mind cannot fully rationalize. To execute this, precision is key. compliment selectively. Offer one meaningful, personalized acknowledgement per interaction, tailored to her character, intellect, or unique traits. Avoid generic praise, which saturates the value and diminishes impact. Immediately after, introduce subtle absence, step back from the conversation, become momentarily unavailable, or shift focus elsewhere. This deliberate withholding forces her to reflect on the interaction, replaying it mentally, analyzing the compliment, and assigning it greater significance than it might inherently hold. The psychological effect is profound. Her mind begins to associate you with emotional highs, creating a variable reward system akin to the principles of behavioral psychology. Just as an unpredictable slot machine triggers anticipation and compulsion, your selective validation and withdrawal compel her to seek repeated engagement with you. Over time, desire ceases to be passive. It becomes a mental pursuit where her thoughts, emotions, and even choices are subtly guided by the rhythm you set. In the hands of a Machiavellian strategist, triggering the ego and then withdrawing is not mere flattery. It is the orchestration of emotional dependency, turning admiration into a magnetic, self-perpetuating force. 6. Make her feel she is choosing you. Machiavelli's greatest insight into power was that control is most potent when it is invisible. People resist being controlled, yet they eagerly embrace the illusion of choice. In Seduction, the man who allows a woman to feel that she is making decisions while subtly guiding her toward his desired outcome, wields influence without apparent effort. When she believes she is in control of her actions, her emotional investment intensifies. Her mind is actively engaged, interpreting every interaction as autonomous, while in reality, the architecture of her choices has been designed by you. This is the essence of Machiavellian strategy: power disguised as freedom, influence disguised as consent. To implement this, subtlety is key. Present options in such a way that she feels she is making the decisions: where to go, what activity to pursue, or how to interact. Frame your actions so that each choice she makes naturally aligns with the outcome you intend. Avoid overt pressure, persuasion, or coercion. The moment she perceives manipulation, the illusion shatters and the effect is lost. Instead, guide her with the invisible hand of suggestion, letting her emotional logic do the work of your strategy. The psychological effect is profound. She begins to believe she is the pursuer, that she is deciding where her attention and desire are directed. In reality, the game has always been orchestrated on your terms. By giving her the sense of agency while quietly steering the path, you amplify her engagement, deepen her attachment, and cement her desire, all without her conscious realization. In this dance of perception, Machiavellian influence is invisible yet absolute. She chooses, she pursues, and she invests, yet every step has been shaped by your mastery of subtle guidance. 7. Elevate the game. Psychological orchestration. Machiavelli taught that mastery lies not in isolated tactics, but in the seamless orchestration of strategy. In Seduction, the man who elevates his approach combines absence, contradiction, selective praise, mystery, and subtle guidance into a single invisible framework. Every interaction, every withdrawal, every carefully chosen word contributes to a psychological symphony that compels desire far more powerfully than any overt effort. This is the dirtiest method of seduction, not because it is crude, but because it is imperceptible, untraceable, and devastatingly effective. While she believes her reactions are spontaneous, every emotional shift, every surge of intrigue is shaped by your strategic orchestration. To implement this level of mastery, advanced techniques are required. Use storytelling as a vehicle for emotional resonance. A simple anecdote, a personal observation, or even a hypothetical scenario can ignite curiosity, nostalgia, or intrigue, planting ideas subtly in her mind. Occasionally mirror her energy to create rapport, then break the pattern unexpectedly to introduce tension, leaving her uncertain yet captivated. Plant seeds of imagination about the future without explicitly stating intentions, letting her envision scenarios where you are central, moments of connection, adventure, or intimacy that exist primarily in her mind. These visions deepen attachment and make your presence psychologically indispensable. The result is subtle yet profound. Desire becomes an active force driven not by chance, but by a carefully orchestrated rhythm of emotional cues. She is engaged, intrigued, and invested, yet remains unaware of the invisible strings guiding her mind. In this arena, the Machiavellian seducer does not chase desire. He shapes it, directs it, and cultivates it with surgical precision. Every absence, every compliment, every contradiction, and every mystery becomes a note in a symphony of influence, a quiet yet undeniable demonstration of power that makes her not just want you, but think she cannot imagine life without you. Seduction is not a game of chance. It is a battlefield, and most men fail because they fight with transparency, effort, and predictability. Machiavelli teaches that desire thrives in silence, subtlety, and orchestration. When absence, contradiction, mystery, exploitation of emotional gaps, ego leverage, and the illusion of choice are combined, they form a psychological architecture that she cannot ignore. She is drawn not merely to your presence, but to the invisible currents of tension, intrigue, and curiosity that you command. This is the essence of the dirtiest method. It is invisible, untraceable, and devastatingly effective. It does not coerce, it shapes, it does not force, it provokes. Every interaction, every subtle gesture, every carefully timed withdrawal works together to engineer desire in ways that feel organic, inevitable, and irresistible. Desire in this realm is never given. It is cultivated, orchestrated, and mastered. The woman does not chase you by accident. She chases because the rhythm you set, the tension you create, and the mystery you maintain have rewired her attention and emotions. She invests not because she must, but because she chooses to, believing herself in control, even as she is drawn ever closer to your psychological gravity. In the end, seduction becomes not a contest of effort, but a demonstration of invisible power, a power that moves silently, works relentlessly, and leaves desire trailing in its wake.